I never thought I'd be sitting here writing this out, but life has a funny way of throwing curveballs. I'm Mark, a 34-year-old husband, and my world turned upside down recently. But let's rewind a bit. I've been married to Jenna for nearly 10 years. We met in college, and until recently, I thought we had a pretty decent life. Sure, we had our ups and downs like any couple, but I genuinely believed we were in it together. Jenna is beautiful, intelligent, and has this amazing knack for making friends wherever she goes. Her laugh could brighten even the darkest days. But lately, I noticed some changes. She started spending more time on her phone, often locking it when I walked into the room. Her late-night workouts were becoming more frequent, and she always seemed a bit too preoccupied to really notice what I was saying. Little things at first, but they began piling up. We had a rather nice suburban home in the heart of Phoenix, and I thought the neighborhood was safe. That's why it didn't strike me as strange at first when the piano tuner, a guy named Dave, started coming over with unusual frequency. I thought it was just my wife being extra diligent with her piano practice. Jenna had taken lessons for years, and I loved hearing her play. But as I sat in the living room one afternoon scrolling through my phone, I noticed the doorbell camera blink with notifications. I opened the app out of curiosity, and there they were, timestamps of Dave's visits, sometimes 2 or 3 times a month. This was odd. In the 3 years he'd been our tuner, he'd come quarterly like clockwork. I shrugged it off at first. Maybe Jenna was working on a new piece for some recital or just wanted to impress me, but something gnawed at me. Eventually, I started paying closer attention to Jenna. I'd ask her about her day, and she'd give me vague answers. She seemed distant, and the spark that once lit up our evenings together was dimming. That same week, she left her phone on the kitchen counter, buzzing with notifications. I hesitated for a moment, but then decided to glance at the screen. I don't even know what compelled me to do it, but I was desperate for answers. Text after text popped up, and I felt my heart drop. There were flirty exchanges, little emojis, and even some suggestive messages that made my stomach churn. It was all with Dave. I wanted to scream, but I was frozen in place. My mind raced as I quickly put the phone down, trying to process what I'd just seen. Rage, disbelief, and a sickening sense of betrayal flooded over me. I confronted Jenna that night. She was in the kitchen, humming to herself as she cooked dinner. I could barely contain my anger and confusion. "We need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She turned, her face immediately shifting from joy to concern. "What's wrong? Why does Dave come over so often?" I asked, my heart pounding in my chest. I watched her expression closely, searching for any hint of guilt. "What do you mean? He comes to tune the piano, Mark, you know that." She replied, dismissing my question with an eye roll. "Don't play games with me, Jenna. I saw the messages." I felt the weight of those words as they hung in the air between us. For a moment, her eyes widened, and I could see her processing the information. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Instead, she quickly recovered and switched to defense mode. "Those are just messages between friends. You're being ridiculous." She shot back, but I could see the cracks in her facade. The lies rolled off her tongue so easily, and I felt my heart shatter into pieces. I needed answers, not empty excuses. "You expect me to believe that? How could you do this to me?" Her expression hardened, and for a split second I saw the real Jenna, the woman I loved, the one I thought I knew, but it quickly vanished, replaced with annoyance. "You're being paranoid, Mark. You know how he is, just a guy who loves music. You're being ridiculous." I felt the anger boil over, mixed with the sting of heartbreak. Words flew back and forth, but each one felt like a dagger piercing deeper into my chest. I was losing her, and she didn't even seem to care. The woman I thought was my partner in everything. As the evening wore on and our argument escalated, I felt a mix of emotions wash over me. I was furious, but I was also deeply hurt. How could she betray me like this, after all we've built together? I didn't know how I could move forward from this, but I had to figure something out. This wasn't just going to go away. I needed a plan, a way to confront the reality of our situation. It was the beginning of what I knew would become a complicated and painful journey. Little did I know, the twists were just beginning. The confrontation with Jenna left me reeling. I went to bed that night with my mind racing, thoughts colliding in a chaotic whirlwind. I couldn't sleep, and every time I tried to close my eyes, images of her laughing with Dave invaded my mind. I replayed the moments we shared, all the times I'd thought we were happy, only to find out I'd been living in a lie. I felt sick. The next morning, Jenna acted like everything was normal, and I was furious. I couldn't believe she could just shrug it off. I wanted to scream to make her feel the pain that was gnawing at me, but I held back. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break. Instead, I decided that I would gather more evidence. A plan was forming in my mind. I needed to know the full extent of her betrayal before I confronted her again. I started to investigate, following her around like a detective in a cheap movie. I kept an eye on her phone, noting her patterns and observing how she interacted with Dave. I even set up a hidden camera near the entrance of our home, just in case. It felt wrong, like I was invading her privacy, but I needed the truth. 2 weeks passed, and I felt like I was living a double life. I kept up appearances, going through the motions of being a supportive husband while my insides were twisted in knots. I went to work, and my colleagues noticed something was off. I shrugged it off, saying I had a lot on my mind. I didn't want anyone poking their noses into my personal life, especially not when everything was so unstable. Then, one afternoon, an alert from the hidden camera changed everything. I was at work when I received a notification on my phone. I quickly opened the app and my heart sank. There was Jenna, laughing as she opened the door for Dave. The way they leaned into each other, the intimacy shared in their body language, there was no denying it. They were too close, too comfortable. I felt a rage boil within me, but I also felt something else creeping in: fear. This was real. I wasn't just imagining it. I watched as they chatted, and Jenna led him to the living room. I couldn't take it anymore. I wanted to shout at the screen, to confront them both right then and there. But I couldn't. I was paralyzed by a mix of emotions. The video showed them laughing, playing the piano together, and exchanging playful touches. I saw everything: the way she gazed at him, the way he leaned in closer. It was as if they shared a world that didn't include me, and it felt like a dagger to my heart. I had to confront her again, but I wanted to do it when I had all the pieces of the puzzle. That night, Jenna came home late, as she had been doing more often lately. I didn't say anything, just fixed myself a drink and waited for her to settle in. She walked in, her face flushed, and I could smell the faint hint of cologne on her clothes. My stomach turned. "Hey, how was your day?" she asked casually, as if nothing was wrong. "Busy, how about you?" I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "Just the usual, you know, I've been working a lot," she answered, but I could see the guilt in her eyes. I felt like a predator waiting for its prey. I decided to drop the bomb the next morning. I wanted her to have a false sense of security, thinking she could get away with her lies just one more time. I needed that moment to be perfect. The next day, with the hidden camera footage ready to go, I waited until she was in the kitchen preparing breakfast. I walked in, steeling myself for what I was about to say. My heart raced as I faced her. "Jenna, we need to talk again," I said, my voice low but firm. She glanced at me nervously, her hands pausing in midair. "What now?" "I have something you need to see." I pulled out my phone and played the video of her with Dave. I watched her face as the realization hit. "Mark, wait," she exclaimed, her expression shifting from confusion to panic. "It's not what you think." I felt a sense of satisfaction wash over me, but it was quickly overshadowed by the pain I was feeling. "Then what is it, Jenna? Because it sure looks like you're more than just friends." She tried to backpedal, her words tumbling out in a frenetic rush. "It was just music. I was showing him a piece I was working on. You know how passionate I get about my piano. It means nothing. But I wasn't buying it." The way she stammered, the guilt plastered all over her face. It was evident that she was lying. "You've been seeing him behind my back. Don't you dare try to play me for a fool." "Mark, please, you're being unreasonable," she shouted, and suddenly it was like a switch flipped in her. The calm, collected Jenna I once knew was gone, replaced by an angry woman desperate to deflect blame. "My heart feels like it's been ripped out, and you act like this is all in my head," I shot back. "You're blowing this way out of proportion. It's just a piano tuner," she yelled. I could feel the betrayal tightening around me like a noose. This wasn't just about the affair. It was about the lies, the deceit, and the manipulation. I couldn't keep quiet anymore. I had to make a choice. This confrontation was only the beginning, and I knew that I had to gather my strength for what was to come. I needed to figure out what my next move would be, and I wouldn't let her walk away without facing the consequences of her actions. The confrontation escalated quickly. Jenna was now in full defensive mode, and I could see the desperation in her eyes. It was as if she realized the walls were closing in on her, and she was scrambling for any way out. I stood there, feeling a mix of anger and heartbreak, trying to make sense of how we had arrived at this point. "You think this is just about the piano?" I asked, my voice steadying. "It's about trust, Jenna. You shattered it into a million pieces." She rolled her eyes, that familiar, infuriating gesture that used to make me laugh, but now it felt like a slap in the face. "You're being so dramatic. You know how passionate I am about music," she insisted, crossing her arms defensively. "It's not like I'm having an affair or anything." But we both knew that was a lie. I could feel the adrenaline pumping through my veins, and my anger was boiling over. "You are having an affair. You've been lying to my face. All those late nights, all those times you went out under the guise of working out or practicing, it was all a cover for you to be with him." Jenna's expression shifted from defensive to pleading. "Mark, please, I swear it was just a mistake. I got caught up in the moment, but it didn't mean anything." She looked like she was about to cry, but I was beyond feeling sorry for her. The tears felt like a tactic, an attempt to manipulate my emotions. A part of me wanted to believe her, to think that it was just a phase, that we could somehow work through it. But another part screamed that this was something much deeper. "You think I'm just going to forgive you, that we can just brush this under the rug and pretend everything's fine?" "I never meant for this to happen, Mark. I was lonely. You've been so wrapped up in your job and everything else. You hardly pay me any attention," she exclaimed, and there it was, the blame had shifted to me. Suddenly, it struck me. I had been so focused on her betrayal that I hadn't noticed how isolated she felt, but that didn't excuse her actions. "So, what? You thought cheating with the piano tuner was the solution. Did you even think about how this would affect us?" I was confused. I just wanted to feel something again. She shouted, her voice cracking. I felt my heart sink. "And you thought betraying your husband was the way to feel something? This isn't just about you, Jenna. This is about us." We stood there, the air heavy with tension, and for a moment it felt like the world around us had stopped. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to make her understand the gravity of what she'd done. But deep down, I also realized that anger wasn't going to fix this. "I can't keep doing this," I said finally, my voice softer now. "This isn't just about your mistakes, it's about the fact that you've shattered my trust, and I don't know if I can ever get that back." She looked at me, her expression shifting. "Mark, wait, you can't just throw everything we've built away. We've been together for 10 years. You can't just discard me because of one mistake." "One mistake?" I echoed incredulously, feeling the rage boiling up again. "No, Jenna, this isn't just one mistake. This is betrayal, and it goes deeper than you realize. It's the lies, the deceit, the way you've treated our relationship like it was nothing." I was scared, okay? I didn't want to lose you, and I didn't know how to tell you. She cried, and I almost felt a flicker of sympathy for her, but as quickly as it came, it vanished. "Scared? You don't cheat on the person you love when you're scared. You talk." I paused, taking a deep breath, trying to regain my composure. This back and forth wasn't getting us anywhere. "I need time to think," I finally said, my heart heavy with uncertainty. "I can't just pretend everything is okay after this." Jenna's face fell, and I almost felt guilty for the pain I saw there. "Mark, please, don't do this. We can work through it. I love you." But the words felt hollow. How could I trust her love now? I walked away, needing space to breathe, to think, to process everything that had just unfolded. I needed clarity, but more than anything, I needed to figure out what I wanted. For days, I replayed that confrontation over and over in my mind. I analyzed every word, every gesture. It was relentless. I couldn't escape it. I started reaching out to friends, seeking advice from people I trusted. They all had different opinions. Some said to fight for my marriage, while others told me to walk away and not look back. The noise got overwhelming. I decided to take a step back from Jenna. I moved into the guest room, needing my space to think clearly without her constant presence. It was awkward, tense, and each passing day felt like an eternity. I watched her from a distance, seeing the toll our situation was taking on her, but I reminded myself that she had done this to us. In my solitude, I found myself wrestling with a range of emotions: anger, sadness, confusion. I was devastated by the betrayal, yet part of me was still clinging to the hope that we could salvage what was left of our marriage. But how could I move forward? Could I ever trust her again? The more I thought about it, the clearer things became. I didn't want to just react out of hurt. I wanted to approach this with intention. I realized that I had to make a decision that was right for me, regardless of how it would affect Jenna. I owed it to myself to figure out what I truly wanted moving forward. And that's when the idea of revenge began to take shape in my mind, a way to reclaim my power in a situation where I felt utterly powerless. It wouldn't be about punishing Jenna, but rather about finding a way to regain my sense of self-worth and agency. I needed to show her that I wouldn't be the one left in the shadows, broken and betrayed. I would rise from this. As I sat in the guest room, the reality of my situation slowly began to crystallize. I was hurt, betrayed, and angry, but I also felt an overwhelming desire to reclaim my narrative. I realized that revenge wasn't about harming Jenna. It was about taking back the control she had stolen from me. I needed to show her and myself that I could rise above this situation. I started by meticulously gathering evidence of her deceit. I kept an eye on her phone when she wasn't around, capturing conversations between her and Dave that only deepened the wound. I wasn't doing this to hurt her, but to prepare for what was to come. I needed all the facts laid bare, not just for me but also for Jenna, so she could fully grasp the consequences of her actions. One evening, I received a text from my best friend, Ryan. He had been a rock through this tumultuous time, lending a listening ear and offering solid advice. "Let's grab a drink," he texted. I could use the distraction. I needed to talk about my feelings, and Ryan always knew how to help me navigate through the chaos. We met at a local bar, a place we had frequented during our college days. As soon as I sat down, Ryan could tell something was off. "You look like you've seen a ghost, man. What's going on?" I took a deep breath, trying to find the right words to express the whirlwind inside me. "Jenna's been cheating on me with the piano tuner." Ryan's eyes widened. "Whoa, seriously, that's brutal. How did you find out?" I filled him in on the hidden camera footage, the texts I had seen, and the confrontation that had spiraled into chaos. As I spoke, I could see the concern etched on his face. "I don't even know where to begin with this," I said, running my fingers through my hair. "I'm so hurt, and part of me wants to make her feel the pain she's caused me." Ryan nodded, understanding. "Look, man, I get it, but you've got to be careful. Revenge can be a slippery slope. You don't want to become someone you're not." But the more I thought about it, the more I knew I needed to do something. "I want her to realize what she's lost, Ryan. I want her to understand the full weight of her actions." "Fair enough," Ryan replied slowly. "But think carefully about how you want to go about it. You don't want to ruin yourself in the process. You deserve better than that." I took his words to heart. I didn't want to become a bitter person, but I also didn't want to be the victim in my own story. I needed to find a way to turn the tables, to show Jenna that I could move on and thrive without her if it came to that. Over the next few days, I devised a plan. First, I needed to make it known that I was no longer the passive partner she had taken for granted. I would begin to rebuild my confidence, reconnect with friends, and pursue new interests. I started hitting the gym again, focusing on my physical health. I felt a sense of empowerment with each workout, and the endorphins began lifting the fog of despair that had clouded my mind. Next, I began to post pictures on social media, images of me out with friends, enjoying life, and embracing new hobbies. I wanted Jenna to see that I was moving forward, and I wanted to show her that I was more than just her husband. I was a person with my own identity, and I was reclaiming it. Of course, I made sure to keep everything subtle. No overt displays of anger or revenge, just a quiet confidence that would make her question what she had lost. I wanted her to feel that pang of regret, to wonder if she had made the biggest mistake of her life. As the weeks went by, I noticed Jenna's behavior change. She would often linger near the door when I left for the gym, her expression shifting from indifference to concern. She tried to engage in small talk, asking about my workouts or how my day had been, but I kept my answers short and distant. I wanted her to feel the space growing between us, the distance that had become our new norm. One evening while I was making dinner, Jenna approached me hesitantly. "Can we talk?" she asked, her tone softer than usual. I turned to face her, keeping my expression neutral. "About what?" "About us," she said, and I could see the vulnerability in her eyes. "I know I messed up and I'm really sorry. I want to try and fix this." I was taken aback. Part of me wanted to hear her out, to consider the possibility of rebuilding our marriage, yet another part of me was still reeling from the betrayal. "Jenna, can you really fix this? Can you go back to being the person I thought you were?" She took a deep breath. "I've realized how much I've taken for granted. You mean everything to me, and I don't want to lose you." I studied her face, searching for sincerity, but I was met with desperation. "You say that now, but the trust is gone. How can I ever feel secure again in our relationship? Give me a chance, Mark. I'll do whatever it takes to prove myself. I'll cut ties with Dave. I won't see him again," she pleaded. The words hung between us, and I felt the weight of the decision I had to make. I was torn between my feelings for her and the knowledge that this was a pivotal moment. I could either forgive her and try to work through it, or walk away and reclaim my life. I took a moment to think it over. I knew I needed to think carefully about my next move. I wanted to hurt her, yes, but I also wanted to heal. "Jenna, I can't promise you anything right now. I need time to figure out what I want," I finally said, and I could see the flicker of disappointment in her eyes. But I knew that no matter what choice I made, I was on a journey to reclaim my power. I was taking the first steps toward my own healing, whatever that may look like. I realized that revenge didn't have to be destructive. It could be constructive, a way of turning pain into strength, and I would make sure that Jenna understood the consequences of her actions, even as I began to forge my own path forward. The days turned into weeks, and the emotional turmoil had settled into a tense stalemate between Jenna and me. I was cautious about every interaction, weighing my words carefully, while Jenna seemed to strive for normalcy. She made attempts to reconnect, cooking dinner and asking about my day, but I felt like I was watching a performance rather than engaging. With my wife, I had taken a step back, and it was becoming increasingly clear that I needed to make a decision, one that would dictate the direction of my life moving forward. I spent a lot of time reflecting on what had happened, trying to piece together the bits of our marriage that had led to this pivotal moment. I kept replaying the betrayal in my mind, wrestling with the pain, the anger, and the feelings of loss. But as I distanced myself emotionally, I started to feel a sense of clarity that had previously eluded me. I was starting to realize that I didn't want to just survive this situation. I wanted to reclaim my sense of self, my worth, and my happiness. I kept up my routine of working out, spending time with friends, and investing in my own interests. I began exploring new hobbies like photography, something I had always wanted to try but never made time for. It became a therapeutic outlet for my feelings, allowing me to channel my pain into art. I started capturing the world around me through my lens, finding beauty in the simplest moments, and it brought a profound sense of peace. As I immersed myself in this new passion, I also made sure to let Jenna see glimpses of my life. I would post photos online, pictures of breathtaking sunsets, vibrant cityscapes, and candid moments with friends. I wanted her to see that I was moving forward, that I was no longer the man who would stand idly by while she destroyed our marriage. I wanted her to understand the depth of her loss, should I choose to walk away. Then came the day that changed everything. I was at a coffee shop with Ryan, sharing some of my recent work and getting his feedback. As I showed him some of my photos, I noticed Jenna walk in. She looked flustered, and I could see her scanning the room until her eyes locked onto mine. I felt an uneasy pang in my stomach, but also a surge of confidence. I was no longer the man she had taken for granted. She approached our table, her expression a mix of determination and vulnerability. "Mark, can we talk for a minute?" she asked, her voice soft. Ryan looked at me, then back at her, sensing the tension. "I'll give you guys some Space, he said, standing up and walking a few tables away. Sure, I replied, trying to keep my expression neutral though my heart raced. We stepped outside into the cool air and I could feel the weight of what was about to unfold. I've been thinking a lot, she began, her voice wavering. About us and what I did. I realize now how I hurt you, and I want to do everything I can to make it right. I held my breath, searching for sincerity in her eyes. Jenna, do you really understand what you've done? This isn't just about the affair. You've shattered my trust, and that's hard to come back from. I know, she insisted, her hands gesturing as she spoke. I've been going to therapy to understand my actions, and I want to be better for you, for us. I was taken aback. It was one thing for her to say she was sorry. It was another to see that she was actively trying to change. Therapy? I asked, needing clarity. Yes, she replied, a hint of desperation creeping into her tone. I want to work on myself to understand why I did what I did. I don't want to lose you, Mark. You mean everything to me. I paused, considering her words. Part of me wanted to believe her, wanted to see the effort she was making as genuine. But another part reminded me of the pain that still lingered, the betrayal that had shaken the very foundation of our relationship. You don't understand, Jenna. It's going to take more than just words to fix this. Trust isn't rebuilt overnight. I know that. I'm willing to do the work. I'll prove to you that I can be the wife you deserve, she pleaded, her voice trembling. I took a deep breath, weighing my options. I could either continue down this path of uncertainty or take a leap of faith, but the risk felt too great. I don't know if I can trust you again. You need to understand that. I will earn your trust back, she said earnestly, her eyes welling with tears. I really mean it. Just give me a chance. I felt a flicker of hope, but it was quickly overshadowed by doubt. I needed to be sure. If we're going to try this, I need time. I need space to think about what I want, I finally said, making it clear that I wasn't ready to dive back into the relationship. Okay, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. I'll give you that, but please know that I'm here ready to fight for us. As we stood there, the air thick with unspoken words, I felt conflicted. Jenna was making an effort, and I could sense her sincerity. Yet I couldn't shake the feeling that this was also about her preserving her image, about wanting to maintain the life we had built together. I took a step back, needing to create that physical and emotional distance. I think it's best if we take a break from each other for a while. I need to clear my head and figure out what the future looks like without you for now. Jenna nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. I understand. I just hope that one day we can get back to what we had. I turned away, my heart heavy. It was the hardest decision I had ever made, but I knew it was essential for my own healing. I needed to reclaim my strength, and I couldn't do it while still tethered to the pain of betrayal. As I walked away, I felt a mixture of sadness and relief. I was taking control of my life again, but the journey ahead felt daunting. I didn't know where it would lead, but I was determined to find my way, whatever that path looked like. I was ready to face the aftermath, and I would emerge stronger than before, whether that meant with Jenna or without her. I was on my own journey of healing, and I would embrace it no matter what. The following weeks were a whirlwind of emotions. I focused on myself, determined to reclaim my life. The break from Jenna gave me the space I needed. I honed in on my photography, capturing moments that spoke to me and brought me joy. I joined a local photography club where I met new people who shared my passion. For the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of freedom and purpose. Meanwhile, Jenna reached out occasionally, sending messages that were filled with encouragement and apologies. She would say things like, "I'm still here for you," and "I miss you." At first, I would read them and feel a flicker of warmth, but I quickly learned to detach myself from those emotions. I was no longer the man who would hang onto every word she said. I was becoming my own person again. One evening, after a long day of shooting in the vibrant streets of downtown Phoenix, I returned home with a sense of accomplishment. I had captured some stunning images, and I felt invigorated. But as I sifted through my emails, I noticed another message from Jenna. This time, it was different. It was heartfelt, raw, and vulnerable. She wrote about her struggles in therapy, the work she was doing to understand her actions, and how she was committed to her growth. I could hear the sincerity in her words, but I also felt a sense of caution. Could I really trust her again? The next day, I went to meet Ryan for lunch. We talked about the recent developments, and I shared my thoughts on Jenna's message. I see that she is trying, and part of me wants to give her another chance, but I'm terrified, Ryan. What if it's all just talk? Ryan looked at me thoughtfully. You know, Mark, it's a risk, but you can't let fear dictate your choices. If you see real change in her, maybe it's worth exploring. Just remember to protect your heart. That advice stuck with me. I didn't want to let fear hold me back, but I also needed to be cautious. I decided to meet with Jenna for coffee, just to talk. I was still uncertain, yet part of me was curious about how she had changed in my absence. The day arrived, and I felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety. I arrived at the cafe early, and as I waited, I felt the weight of my decision settling on my shoulders. When she walked in, I noticed the effort she had put into her appearance. It was clear she had chosen her outfit carefully, perhaps trying to make a good impression. "Hey," she said softly, her voice laced with uncertainty. "Hey," I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. We sat down, and for a moment the silence hung between us, thick and palpable. "I've missed you," she said, her eyes searching mine for a glimmer of hope. "I've missed you too," I admitted, but the words felt heavy. "But I need to be honest with you, I'm still hurt. It's going to take time for me to process everything that happened." "I understand," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I don't expect you to just forgive me. I know I've broken your trust, and that's not something I can fix overnight. But I'm committed to making things right. I want to be the person you deserve." I watched her closely, looking for sincerity in her eyes. "You say that, but what does that really mean for us moving forward? Can you guarantee you won't fall into the same patterns?" "I can't guarantee anything," she replied, her honesty refreshing. "But I'm working on myself. I've been learning about why I did what I did, and I want to communicate better. I want us to rebuild from the ground up if that's what you want." There was something reassuring about her willingness to admit her imperfections. I realized that I hadn't just been angry at her betrayal. I had also been afraid of losing the person I had loved for so long. "Here's the thing," I said slowly, gauging my words carefully. "I want to believe you, but I need to see real changes in your actions, not just words. I need to feel safe with you again." Jenna nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I know, and I'll do everything I can to show you that I'm serious. I won't rush you, but I hope we can work towards something together." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my decision. "Let's take it slow. I'm not ready to jump back into a full-blown relationship, but I'm willing to open the door a crack and see where it leads." A flicker of hope crossed her face, and I could see the relief settling in. "Thank you, Mark. I won't let you down again. I promise." As we continued talking, I sensed a shift. There was an openness, an honesty that hadn't existed before. I realized that while the journey to rebuild trust would be long and fraught with challenges, there was also potential for growth, both individually and as a couple. In the weeks that followed, we took baby steps toward rebuilding our relationship. We went on walks, shared meals, and talked about our feelings more openly than we had in years. Jenna was learning, and I was watching closely, testing the waters to see if her actions matched her words. Slowly but surely, I began to see glimpses of the woman I fell in love with, the one who made me laugh, who shared my dreams, and who wanted to build a life together. I knew that the path ahead wouldn't be easy, and there would be moments of doubt and fear. But I also felt a new sense of hope. Through this entire ordeal, I had learned so much about myself, about resilience, the importance of communication, and the power of forgiveness. I realized that while love can be complicated, it's also an opportunity for growth and healing. As I looked ahead, I felt that I was no longer defined by the betrayal I had endured. I was in control of my own story, and I was ready to write the next chapter, whatever it might hold.